All right, here it is, Wednesday, March 12th, just about quarter till noon. Temperature is 75 degrees, humidity is in the low 40s, and I am making a very quick trip to check on the hive from Saturday that I caged. I introduced a caged marked queen from what I believe another hive because the end of that inspection got a little messy, and if you're watching the video now, you saw the previous clip. Let me walk around, I'll show you the entrances. We are still 8 days away from spring, if you can believe it, with these temperatures. This morning's temp was in the high 30s, kinda surprisingly. Here at the house, it gets a little colder than most of the weather apps, so we've known that for a while. The overnight temps for the next week are in the high 40s, maybe low 50s, and the midday temps, just like right now, are about the same in the mid 70s. So again, let's walk around, take a look at the entrances, because even though we are a week away from spring, it does not look like it, right? I'm very curious this weekend. I'm very curious when I get back into number one. So I'm on a weekly schedule at this point. I primarily use Saturdays for inspections in case something comes up that I need another day, and then I can use Sunday. But I'm pretty confident it's number 13, and I'll know real quick because as soon as I crack the two boxes apart, I'll see the JZ BZ queen cage. Let's walk down here real quick just to check out this side of the yard. And just like I've shared quite a few times, that side of the yard gets early sun because it kind of comes right through the trees, and then the rest of the hives kind of wake up. But number one, you know, you saw that clip before this one from Saturday, introduced a few frames of very nice cat brood and eggs, really to give them a boost. So they do have a few more bees flying, and I shook a bunch of bees in there, or I just kept the nurse bees on that frame since I found the queen from the colony I moved those frames from. But with the amount of cat brood I introduced to them, it'll be another week or two, maybe before I really see a boost in their front entrance activity. Not that you can judge a lot from that, but yeah, let me get suited up. I'm gonna go in smokerless just because I plan on being that quick. And I think it's 13. It's either 13 or 17, one of those two. And really just take a look to see if the queen is out of the cage. Okay, so let me talk about that real quick, I promise. So Saturday I did that. The plan was to give her 2 days, Sunday, and then check on her Monday. But between Monday and Tuesday, the weather wasn't all that great. We had a lot of rain, so that's why I'm out here 4 days later to see if she's released. So like usual, enough me yapping. Let's get into a few of these hives, figure out where that caged queen is, and let's see if the bees have released her yet. All right, down here at 13, and like I was saying, as soon as I crack the boxes, okay, it was not this one. Let's see. Let's see if it's 17. I marked this one for a reason. So I'm gonna have to go back and watch my own video. Okay, it is this one. So let me see how I can do this. And no, surprisingly. Hopefully you can see this. Yeah, no kidding. She's still in there. They've chewed quite a bit of the sugar, or the marshmallow, sorry. But yeah, no kidding. She's still in there, so I'm comfortable with releasing her at this point. Let's do this. And with the JZ BZ cages, they're pretty easy going. You just pop the top open, and honestly, she should just crawl out. All right, any time now, right? Where's she at? She's still in there. It's hard to see. There she goes. And yes, this looks way different from Saturday. When I first introduced her, with the queen clip to a colony. I mean, they got on top of her. One bee was clearly trying to sting her and trying to kill her, so hopefully that there wasn't any success there. They look like they are accepting her better than Saturday. Okay, all right, so I'm glad I got out here and got her out of the cage. All right, so a few things, right? Don't sweat it if you cage a queen, or if you're introducing a caged queen to another colony and you can't get out into that colony for more than 2 days. Weather dependent, right? So the midday weather, or the highs lately, have been in the mid 70s. Overnight's been again in the high 30s, low 40s. But putting the queen in the center between the two boxes, assuming that's where the cluster kind of forms, I have no doubt that she'd be fine and they'd keep her warm, right? So the concern is you really don't want her to be caged for too terribly long. So I'm going to keep an eye on 17. Obviously that'll be a part of my weekly inspection here in a few days. 13 and 15, my memory is starting to come back to me a little bit. Pretty confident I marked that queen. That's the one of the colonies that had an unmarked queen. I marked her. And then 13, I think, is the one I was unsure of if they were queen right. So with the brick facing forward, just something to check on. The brick in parallel with the hive stand, just something different to check on. So there you go. Well, the queen I introduced to 17 was not from that colony, right? That's why I introduced her. And then she was caged for 4 days. I don't want to repeat the temperatures, but you get the point. Don't sweat it. If a queen's caged for more than 2-3 days, she'll probably be okay, but you don't want too much time to go by, which is one of the reasons I've probably said a few times at this point why I wanted to come out here real quick, check on her, and then obviously I needed to take action. And then hopefully y'all saw just how easy those JZBZ cages are to release a queen. All right, stay tuned for the rest of the month. All right, here we go, folks. It's another weekend and I'm back in the bees. So hey, it's Saturday, March 15th, right at 2:30. The temperature is 77 degrees and the humidity is 61%. And we are 5 days away from the official start of spring, if you can believe it or not. So I'm gonna come out here and do a few quick things. And of course, I'm gonna walk you through what those are. But first, let's take a look at the yard and the hive entrances, because even though we're still 5 days away from spring, as you can imagine, with temps in the 70s, things are looking great. So hey, this is what I'm gonna do today. So the first and probably the easiest thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna come out and do the 2 or 3 finger weight check of all the hives, and any hive that is light, that feels very light, I'm gonna feed them 1-to-1 sugar water for the last time. And the idea behind that is because even though the weather's warm, the bees are bringing in pollen, nothing really is blooming just yet, or nectar sources, because our typical nectar flow is about the very early part of April. So we still have 2, maybe 3 weeks to go. And speaking of feeding, the last time I fed the hives was exactly a month ago. So I know they've been out of food for a while. Sure, they've stored some, but as far as the feeders are concerned, they've been dry for probably the better part of 3 weeks. So the first thing, check the hives. Like I said, feed any that are light. So that's kind of 2 things, right? The third thing I'm gonna do, and I'm not going in any kind of order right now. The third thing I'm gonna do that's pretty easy, I'm gonna treat the hives for the last time this evening. And the fourth thing I guess I'm gonna do today is really get back into 17, 13, and 15. And the reason I'm gonna do that is, well, based off the earlier clip, 17, I believe that's the hive that I introduced a queen to from another hive, most likely. I'm pretty sure 13's queenless, so this week they should have some queen cells. And then 15, that's the hive that I marked the queen last week. It seemed like they took her back okay, but something seemed a little off, so I'm just gonna check on them to make sure they still have a marked queen. The rest of them are doing well. I anticipate a few light frame, or a few light hives, that's fine. And then yeah, that'll be it for mid-March. This is nice to see. After moving some frames down here into number 11 to give them a boost, it looks like some may have hatched, emerged over the last week or so, given that activity. And then same thing for number 1. I introduced two or three frames into them, and they have a little more activity than they have. So yeah, quick introduction. Check the weights, feed the light ones, check those 3 hives for the things that I mentioned, and then treat them later this afternoon. All right, I'm gonna start with 17. They seem pretty calm. Give y'all a first look, of course. They seem pretty calm, which is good. So I'm just gonna move a few frames and get into the bottom box. Well, I'll still have to go through the top box. Anyway, let's take a look and see if they've kept the queen, geez, that was introduced last week. Just a quick first look at the bottom box. So she wasn't in the top box. They had a few decent frames of food, but let's go through this one and see if we can find her. All right, there she is right there. All is well. I'm just gonna cage her so I can go through the rest of the frames real quick, just to make sure nothing's off. All right, she's caged. All right, let's see if we can see her get out of the cage. Yeah, everything looks good. This colony is a little on, where's she at? Right there, a light side. So she get out? No, she's still in there. These queens, for some reason, let's see, there she goes, and right there. Okay. All right, first look at 13's top box. They have a decent amount of weight, even though I know some of these frames don't have much of anything going on. But that is not exactly why I'm here. I am here to go through every single frame and try and find a queen, or of course signs that they are queen ripe. So stand by for that. It really doesn't take long to go through the top box. Nice food stores. It looks like they're starting to uncap some of them. No signs of a queen up here, which is something I expect sometimes. So let's get into the bottom box and see what they have going on. All right, like usual, just a first quick look. They seem pretty calm. And the reason I mention that, I've said it in previous videos, but probably not this year since it's still pretty early. But sometimes you can tell if a hive is queenless because as soon as you open them up, they seem pretty agitated, and you can hear that. This is kind of interesting to see. Quite a few bees sticking their rears up to fan the queen's pheromones, so maybe that's a good sign. Find out here in a second. All right, here I am on the second frame, and I'm trying to find what I just saw. Maybe it was on this side. Oh yeah, okay, here we go. So we have a queen cup, but then when we come over here, I don't know if that's gonna come up or not. Hopefully the camera's focusing, but we have a no kidding queen cell right there. So considering it's pretty darn developed and probably will be capped in the next few days, let's just take a look. Oh yeah, they are raising a queen, and I don't remember, I'll have to look back. I don't remember if I introduced any frames to this hive with day-old eggs and all that. I don't remember if I did that or not, but it looks like the bees were able to determine they did not have a queen, and they're making necessary steps to fix their situation. Okay, I'm still gonna go through the, well, there's only 2 more frames, but I'll show you anything worthwhile. But no kidding, they have a queen cell in development. right, down here at 15, and like I was saying in the introduction, the only reason I really want to check on them is something just seemed a little off when I was reintroducing the queen to this colony after I marked her last week. So that's really the only reason I'm getting into them, is just to make sure they accepted her. So like usual, I'm gonna look for eggs, or if I can find the queen, even better. And of course, I'll show you any of that. Quite a few frames of nice brood in the top box, and even without the flashlight, I could see, yeah, I can see eggs and quite a few cells on this frame and the previous frame. So she's still in here. I might just go through a few more and see if I can find her. I thought of one other thing I wanted to do today, mainly by either popping the top covers or splitting the boxes and really getting an idea of how many frames of bees the colonies have. I wanted to find the 5 strongest colonies, and I plan on adding a deep 8-frame super to those 5, and then the rest, I think I'm just going to leave them as is, with the deep and the medium as the brood chamber, and introduce or add medium supers that have all new foundation that need to be drawn out. And of course, to give them a kickstart, I'm going to heavily wax them all, and then of course bring 1 or 2 bait frames up from the medium box, which is, I guess, a good reason to overwinter with a medium. Bring one of those frames up, and that should really entice the bees to get into that new medium super with the new foundation and really draw that out. So I'm trying to use Mother Nature to my advantage as soon as the nectar flow starts and the bees are bringing in a lot of nectar, and the younger bees can make wax and everything while their wax glands are active, and get a lot of this new equipment from last year, right? Get a lot of that stuff drawn out. So I was just thinking about that as I was going through number 15, right? Yeah, number 15, because this is why. You want to see a strong colony? Check this out. That to me is a sign of a very strong colony in mid-March. All right, I'm gonna go through a few frames. Even though I found eggs in the top box, I really just kind of want to get eyes on her. Not the end of the world if I don't, but that's just how I am, so let's do it. And that is exactly why I start marking my queens. Well, it's been a few years, but extremely easy to find. She is doing a fantastic job. This hive, number 15, they're one of the prime candidates to get a deep super. I decided to come down to number 1 real quick. As I was finishing things up, I was checking the hives by lifting them with 2 fingers. This hive is very light, and it makes sense when I get in here. They really don't have many food stores, and the brood's kind of light. They are queen right, and they have been the whole time. The thing that caught my eye is two things actually. One, they have a lot of very nice larvae that just hasn't been capped. But the more concerning thing that caught my eye is this here. If I can get some bees out of the way. Look at all of the cells they have uncapped. And just going off memory, I'm going to do some research later, but going off memory, 1 of 2 things. Either they're running out of food and they're starting to cannibalize the brood, or they have some kind of disease going. But then you look at frames like this, and pretty darn nice brood patterns. Let's check this side. No eggs in the open brood, but that could have been recently hatched bees that the colony bees are going back to clean out the cells. So TBD, right? But they are continuing to do semi-okay. This will be one of the colonies I do feed later today. But I just wanted to show y'all that. I'm gonna have to do some research later and figure out what exactly that means, but let's get her released, and that's it for number one. All right, so hey, it's 4:15. Just got done running the mixing barrel. Oh, this is interesting. So I had a timer for 30 minutes and it looks like it kicked off. It may have been running for just a few minutes before that. So I'm gonna unplug it and see how long it takes now for it to cool down. So I guess it wasn't the, it was kind of the power cord, right? So this is a 15 amp, the other one was 12. It runs for 30 plus minutes, but it seems to still overheat. So again, I'm gonna set a 10-minute timer so I can figure out in increments how long it takes to cool down and go from there. I'm not too sure when this turned off because my timer just went off, so it didn't get the full 30 minutes, but pretty darn close. All right, I decided to let it go a full 30 minutes. So here we go. Let's see if that's enough time for everything to cool down. Perfect. Since the sump pump is back to running, I'm gonna crack all the top boxes off to the side. I actually have one reverse, so you understand what I mean. Expose the feeders, fill them up, and that's it for mid-March. One and a half minutes for 1, 2, 3, 4 hives. This still just impresses me so much. I wish I did this years ago. So if you're watching this video and you have at least 10, maybe 12 hives, this is the way to feed. I'm anticipating 4 minutes. Feed 12 hives in 4 minutes. All right. Let's see what the clock says. About 5.5 minutes for 12 hives. Not too bad. All right, I finished feeding the bees and cleaning up maybe hour and a half ago, and I had some leftover sugar like usual. So what I've been using or doing is setting a few division board feeders, as you can see right here, and topping them off with sugar water. And that is a sign that we still don't have a nectar flow going on. So if bees are hitting any sugar water or any open feeders, yeah, we're not to spring and we don't have a nectar flow just yet. All right, let's do a quick update. So here it is, Tuesday, March 18th, just shy of 5 o'clock. And hopefully y'all can see that the interest in the swarm traps has greatly picked up. So it's about 68 degrees, 29% humidity, feels great. But yeah, no kidding. There are bees, whether they're mine or somebody else's, but they are interested in the traps. Let's go take a look at the other few that are nearby, so I can show you all that too. Oh yeah, it shouldn't be much longer before we start catching swarms for 2025. Yeah, no kidding. The activity's picked up on all traps, if you can see that or not. So, I haven't mentioned this before, scout bees will usually find one of the traps, and when you just see a few bees checking it out, what they are doing according to the textbooks and everything is taking some measurements. They're walking around the inside of the trap to see if it's suitable for the colony to move into. All right, hey, here we go. This will be the last oxalic acid treatment before the nectar flow is here. So it's Wednesday, March 19th, right at 6 p.m. And thanks to the extra daylight, I can get this stuff done without it being too dark. Temperature is about 76 degrees. Humidity is in the mid 30s. It feels fantastic. And spring officially starts tomorrow. The hive activity has settled down just a little bit. I was out here maybe an hour ago, but they are really enjoying this weather. All right, just to make this short, I'll just show you a few clips as I'm treating. Nothing different than the previous times, but I'm gonna get to it. Well, this is a first. So I've had the same method for years. Treat one hive, go to the next. Usually have the mason jar of oxalic acid on top of a hive with the smoker. It is pretty cool to see, like I've showed a few times, the amount of bees that come back from out foraging, but this is the first. I've never knocked over the mason jar before, so that's probably about a half a pound of oxalic acid, which obviously stinks. It's not terribly expensive, but accidents happen, I suppose, right? All right, just finishing up with number 11 like usual. It's been about 20 minutes. All the hives have been treated, and that's going to be it. And that's going to be it until about maybe July after we pull the supers.